Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our webinar, Securing Your Files in Transit. Just before we kick off, a little bit of housekeeping. On the right-hand side or the top, you'll see a GoToWebinar toolbar, and in there's an opportunity to make your webinar screen full screen if you want to, and you can ask any questions at the box at the bottom as well, and we'll do our best to come to those at the end for you. As a quick introduction then, my name is Chris, and I'm joined by my colleague Neil as well. And today we're going to have a look at some of the traditional methods we've all used for sharing or transferring information in and out of a business. And of course, look at some of the security concerns that we have with those methods these days. We'll also touch on and share our experience when implementing our own file transfer solution with our own customers and how we've managed to secure their files in transit. Okay, so let's go straight into it then. So I thought it'd be good to segment the traditional methods that we've all used for transferring and sharing information. And I won't go through all of these points in a lot of detail, but what I will do is just pick on a few here and there, just to hopefully set the scene for the webinar. So FTP. Well, FTP has been used for many years now for publishing files publicly. And the problem with FTP really is that quite often usernames and passwords are needed for authentication, but they're actually sent in plain text. So it really defeats the object of transferring or sharing information securely. And of course, this makes FTP as a protocol quite vulnerable to sniffing attacks or man-in-the-middle attacks. Of course, you can use SFTP. From a usability point of view, it can be a little bit clunky for your users or the external users, and it's not always the easiest thing on the eye. Also, traditionally, the audit trail isn't necessarily where it needs to be. Email, of course, we all use email every day, send and receive hundreds, if not thousands, every week, and really it's been the primary source of transferring information in and out of the business. But the issue comes when you're looking to transfer files of a sensitive nature, and the biggest issue with email really is the lack of control after the email has been sent. Of course, you can ask for read receipts or delivery receipts, and you can try to recall an email after it's been sent, but you're really relying on the third party to say yes or no to that. So they have control. Also, depending on the email system that you're using, you might want to double check whether the files or the transfer is encrypted end to end. It's not always the case. And of course, the age-old problem is down to file sizes. So if you're having to attach a file over 10, 15 or 20 meg for argument's sake, and your email system will allow you to do that, what's happened in the past is that users have actually chunked emails to transfer that data across, which of course has its own issues. Cloud sharing, and what I mean by cloud sharing really, and what we refer to at AMS is workaround solutions. And the typical scenario may be where perhaps you've got a team or some colleagues that work underneath you, and perhaps they need to share a file that's maybe a little bit larger than normal or a strange file type, and they can't really use email or anything else. Now, if there's no centralized corporate solution, what they tend to do is just find the quickest way possible. And that quite often means using their own things like a Dropbox account or perhaps a free WeTransfer account on the fly. Now, these solutions are very good at what they do. But the issue here, when you're talking about it from a corporate perspective and more specifically a security perspective, is that there's no central control. So what happens if you've got a colleague sharing sensitive corporate documents and they're mixed in amongst their holiday photos, for example? Also, if you are a business that has strict IG policies, and perhaps your IG policies dictate that you have to have EU or even UK data sovereignty, it's always worth double checking, because a lot of these sort of free consumer solutions are based out of the States. Removal media and postal and courier. I thought I may as well just group these two together, because really the risk is the same for the two. Now, the biggest risk, and it's quite an obvious one, is as soon as that data or those files become tangible in any way or put onto a tangible device, they're subject to loss or theft, and there's no real control. As a side note, here at AMS, we do a lot with the NHS, and I won't go into this process in a lot of detail because for most of you it may seem quite irrelevant, but they typically have been burning health records onto discs and then posting them out via the Royal Mail or courier services. So as a side note, it's amazing how quickly the costs can ramp up as well for buying those devices and actually send them by recorded delivery. We're actually working with a couple of trusts at the moment that are spending sort of £20,000 to £25,000 a year on postal and courier services. So I just wanted to put that slide in just to set the scene for the webinar really, and just pick on a few of the security concerns that we have with the traditional methods of file transfer. So I've introduced this slide because I thought it would be useful to look at the traditional methods and compare them to what's available nowadays. Now, whether you're looking at AMS file, secure file transfer, or another vendor secure file transfer, the first thing to note is that you no longer have to worry about passwords. So let alone plain text passwords. The system will look after that for you. So as an admin, you dictate the password strength, you dictate the password policy, and then you allow the system to control that for you. Everything is encrypted, so whether you're looking at a point-to-point secure transfer or whether you're looking for longer-term storage and collaborational files, everything is encrypted with 256-bit AES encryption, and my colleague Neil will talk you through that in a little bit more detail in a couple of seconds. Also, with most secure file transfer solutions, if you still want to utilize email, you can do with things like an Outlook plugin. And the great thing about an Outlook plugin, of course, is that you can guarantee that the files are encrypted, so you eliminate that risk immediately. You also eliminate the problem of file sizes, so it bypasses any file size limitations you may have on your email. And the biggest thing probably is that you gain control of that proof of delivery and proof of download. Another thing to bear in mind when you're looking at secure file transfer solutions, and whether you're using something like a branded web portal that you may get with the solution, or whether you're using the Outlook plugin, is that you have one central audit and you have one central control. So I just wanted to put that slide in, because I think it's quite nice to sort of demonstrate what's available nowadays and how that can counteract some of the issues we have with the traditional file transfer methods. So something that's quite often overlooked is branding. Now, of course, from a business or sales or marketing point of view, it's much better to have a branded solution when sharing your files. Of course, you can mirror the look and feel of your website. You can do things like pull up selling messages, for example. You can have your logo. But from our point of view, and most of our customers' point of view, branding is important for security reasons. So, for example, if you take Northampton General Hospital with a screenshot, when a patient, when a solicitor, when a police officer or a family member of the patient logs in, they know they're going to the correct place. And likewise, when they receive email notifications that are branded as well, it gives them a sense of reassurance. Now, if you want to take the security a step further, you can also introduce things like a custom URL, which some of our customers do, and a custom email relay as well. So what I'll do is I'm going to pass you across to Neil, who will take you through our own file transfer solution and how we've managed to help secure files in transit for our customers. And I think Neil may touch on a few points here and there related to GDPR as well, for those of you sort of interested in the GDPR articles. And then I'll come back at the end of the webinar and summarise.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. Morning, everyone. So I'm going to give you a short demo of the AMS file transfer platform. What I'll look to do is cover both the transfer from a user and client perspective, how to share and collaborate on files and folders using Fileshare, and also some of the admin functions available. So the solution is accessed via our web portal, which is mobile friendly, or by using our desktop app or Outlook plugin. As Chris alluded to, some of you may be looking at this from a GDPR data protection perspective, so I will try and refer to some of the articles throughout the demo. Before we do log in, our cloud offering is hosted in a UK Microsoft Azure environment, which complies with ISO27001 and other security standards. And this offers full UK data sovereignty and complies with Article 25. So for now, if I log into the platform, so on the left side, you'll see the two modules we have in the solution. These are licensed, so if you're only licensed for one, you'll only see the one you're licensed for. So file transfer is more of a point-to-point solution with expiry, and the Fileshares is more of a longer-term storage area where you can collaborate on files. More importantly, all of the access is centrally managed and audited, which we'll touch on later on. So if I expand my transfers, you'll see a familiar view like an email mailbox where you can manage what you've received in, what you've sent or saved in your draft items. The archive is more of an historical view of what's been sent personally, which has since been deleted or expired. And the invite user function is just another way of onboarding users onto the platform instead of sending them a transfer, or instead of onboarding them via the admin side of the portal. So if I hit new to create a new file transfer and click into the to field, so this list here can either be pre-populated as an address book, and it's very easy just to select from the entries available. Alternatively, given the permission, you can invite users outside of that list. And if you personally haven't sent to them before, it would just tag it with the invite tag. The subject and notes, now these form part of the email notification that's sent out to the users or recipients. And we say here, be descriptive about what you're sending, but don't include any sensitive information in these fields. And that's purely because the information is visible from within the email without actually authenticating to the platform. Any sensitive information that you wish to attach to the transfer can be put into the secure notes. These are fully encrypted, so as you'd expect, if maybe you're still insistent on password protecting files, or maybe you've got some personal identifiable information that you want to add into the transfer, you can feel free to put it in here, knowing that it's only visible once you've authenticated. So step 2 of the transfer is just where we add files, so either by dragging and dropping onto the web portal interface or by browsing to your local file explorer. And we have some restrictions whereby administrators can set how many files maybe can be uploaded on a single transfer, even the file size and the total size of that transfer as well. So if we hit next or step 3, and we've got some controls here around the expiry date in particular. So this manages the retention of the files and the secure notes that you're sending. So by default, there'll be a default expiry that's published via a policy, and even a maximum expiry as well. So it just prevents anyone leaving data for longer than they need to. The access options, so you can choose from these, and this will determine how the recipients access the files or secure messages and restrict these depending on the security that you need. So for this demonstration, I'll choose login. And the file access restrictions, this is our digital rights management module. And this allows you to restrict what the recipients can do with the files once they've received them, and whether to restrict them from viewing or downloading the documents. A use case for this, we recently had touch with an organisation, and they had a problem where they sent out some patient notes on a USB, which unfortunately got lost in the post. And so they're now trialling our platform, not only to secure the data in transit, but also to restrict the download and print of that information on the other side. So finally, we have the email notification options. So you can be notified very easily when a transfer is read, when someone's downloaded a file for the first time, or even when the transfer has expired. So these controls, so the storage retention with the expiry and availability, the access control with the access options and encryption, and these also comply with Article 25. So when you're ready to send, you hit send now, or go back to page back and maybe make some amendments, or you can even save to your draft items to come back to it later on. So now we're in our sent items, we can manage what we've sent, but for now if I just hit sign out, what I'll do is just take you through quickly from a recipient perspective and just show you the user experience on how that works. So you'll notice here there's no data in the email at all from the transfer, and the secure notes aren't visible. The email notification has been branded, so you could choose to maybe store some disclaimer information in here as well, which would comply with Article 4 of that Act. But if I hit download, now this is prompting me to log in purely because I already have a recipient account on the platform. If you didn't, it would take you through a very short sign-up process where you would also be able to accept any T's and C's that have been enforced centrally. This also falls under Article 4 as well. So now I have full visibility of the transfer, including the secure notes and files to download. So remember, the data never leaves the server here unless it's downloaded or viewed from the platform. So we're not moving data around, we're just providing central access to that information and allowing the recipients to either download or view it. So I've just hit download on a file, which downloads it to your local drive. Alternatively, you can view information in line. By default, without the DRM enabled, you are able to print and download from this web viewer, but also the text within this is searchable as well. So you are able to do keyword searches for the key information that you require. So if I just hit sign out, and I'll go back in as the original sender of the information, and I'll show you some of the controls that you have as the sender, which help you manage the transfer. So if I just head towards my sent items and click into the transfer that I've just sent. So the first tab is the transfer tab, and this is a view of exactly what the recipients can see, including now the secure notes, which I've just highlighted, and the files that you've sent. So the files tab provides access really to track each individual file access or recall individual files very quickly and easily. So if I just hit recall, that's actually an instant recall. You're not reliant on that third party to accept that, so they'll no longer be able to see that. And tracking the actual movement of that file being downloaded is also recorded, including who's downloaded it, the date and time, and the source IP address as well. And the Shares tab, this allows you to track individual recipient actions and remove access if required. And it also shows you if they've accessed that transfer, and also the last time they accessed it as well. If they haven't viewed it, you can send them a nudge, which sends them another email just to inform them that they still haven't viewed that transfer. Centrally, but also on a personal level, if you send a transfer, you have full visibility of each action for the whole transfer rather than individual files or recipients. And this kind of falls over under providing visibility and a central audit, which is under the security of processing umbrella in Article 32. Finally, on the right side, you've got the details panel. This shows the authentication type, the size of the transfer that you've selected, any email notifications or alerts that you've set, and you can also delete or even amend the expiry from this panel as well. So the Fileshare part of the platform, I guess here a typical use case here would be if you are maybe currently using an FTP service or sharing files locally. Maybe you do have an existing consumer file sharing solution, but want an easier way to share and collaborate on these files and folders centrally. So this is where the Fileshare's platform comes into play. It's very easy to create these file share containers just by creating a name and a description. And if I click into one, it's very easy to create a simple folder structure. Now, we do actually have a desktop app for this as well, where you can choose to drag and drop whole folder structures onto the platform to each share that you have access to. Obviously, I'm just showing you the manual way of doing this. Now, I'm actually an owner of the transfer, of the share, sorry. So I'm actually able to not only manage it, but I'm able to view the settings, the notification options, and the full audit as well. But what this gives me is some other controls around managing what I've uploaded. So I could view the file or download it. I've got an option here to check out the document. So in cases where recipients have access to the share, they're no longer able to check out given the permission, but they could still view and download the information. Now, you can choose to download once you've checked it out and work on the document and check it back in for versioning, or you can just simply choose to check in a document that you previously edited. And by doing so, what that does, if I hit view, it displays the document in line, but it also provides some versioning of the document where I can go back to a previous version and download that as well. Some other options on the files, basic options where you can rename, you can move the files, you can make comments as well. And after making a comment, you can even be configured, even from a recipient point of view, to set up your own email notifications so you can easily be notified when changes have been made, like the comments, or when files or folders have been added or deleted. And you can also control the frequency of those notifications throughout the day as well. So I mentioned you have access to a full audit, like the transfer had as well, but also an opportunity to onboard users in a different way. So we've got a couple of ways of onboarding users to the shares. So this is the central way, which would provide access to the entire share based on role permissions. So I'm an owner, have full rights to the share. An editor can do everything an owner can, apart from view the settings, the audits and add users. A publisher can only upload and download information, and a read-only user is very restricted, and it can only read or download information that's published as well. To share an individual file or folder, you can come back to the file in question and hit share. And this can either pre-populate the list of the entries as shown, so I can choose from a list of previous recipients that I've sent to before. Obviously, you can invite new users onto the platform this way as well, and set the authentication method on how you want them to access that file. So I'll choose login and hit save. And you'll notice now the user's been added to the list, so they're now going to receive an email notification. Just while that's been sent, an option that I missed out on here is under the settings menu, and this controls from an administration perspective centrally what sort of file sizes can be uploaded to each individual share, any blacklisted items to prevent people from uploading those to a share, or even file retention as well. So once a file reaches a certain age, it can be securely wiped from the system. So I just quickly log out and go back to my email. So this is the share that's been sent to me. So if I hit view file, it's prompting me to log in again with the account that I've already signed up to. And as soon as I log in, it takes me to that file, which has been published to me individually, and I can now print or download that from within the viewer and also search again like before. So there is an admin side to the portal as well, which unfortunately I won't have time to show you. But what this does do is allow you to not only administer the solution centrally, but more importantly, you can run compliance and audit reports, which can be exported from the platform and analysed outside of the system. And this falls in line with record of processing activities, which comes under Article 30. Likewise, what you can do is search on all sent and received transfers, run reports, any system changes, And as mentioned, you can export the data where necessary. Okay, so if I'll pass you back over to Chris, but I appreciate your time, and we'll continue with the webinar.
Brilliant, thanks Neil. So just to come to the end of the webinar now, but I just wanted to bring up this point. So information security management can mean slightly different things to different people. So information security management describes controls that an organization needs to implement to ensure that it's sensibly protecting the confidentiality, availability, and integrity of assets from threats and vulnerabilities. So what does this actually mean in the real world? Well, as Neil showed you on the demo earlier, if you are transferring anything of a sensitive nature, it really needs to be encrypted. So AMS file transfer has 256-bit AES encryption, and that's in transit and at rest. And to add to that, in terms of the way that the solution is hosted, it has full data segregation as well. There's a variety of authentication options, as Neil showed you on the demo, and we didn't really get a chance to show the digital rights module, but that's extremely powerful. Being able to control that file after it's been sent, stopping someone printing it, saving it, editing it, or deleting it is very powerful. Centralized control. So what a lot of file transfer solutions are, and certainly AMS file transfer solution is a user-driven system, but within very strict set permissions by admin. So I think Neil alluded to this slightly a few minutes ago, but as an admin, you can go in and dictate the retentions on transfers. You can dictate the size of the files, the maximum transfer size. You can introduce address books, and you can enforce them as well as a whitelist. Audit trail, of course, any information coming or leaving the business that's deemed sensitive needs to have an audit trail. And we looked at the audit trail on a per transfer level in the demo, but when you dig into the admin side, you really can dig deeper into those audit trails, understand exactly who's sending to who and what they're actually sending. Likewise, from an application level as well, you can look at the application and understand whether there's certain users that are failing their passwords all the time. So that's come to the end of the webinar, and we really do appreciate your time today. If you do want to get in contact to ask us any questions just on the subject generally, or if you do want to find out more about AMS as a company or AMS file transfer as a solution, then please feel free to give us a call or drop us an email. We're also available on social media. If you do think AMS file transfer has potential for your business, then we can do one-to-one bespoke demos. And we can also do free branded trials as well, which last about 15 days. And that's quite a nice way of you getting a real understanding of the solution itself and whether it's right for your requirement, process, or business. So thanks again for your time. And I think what we'll do now is we'll go through some of the questions that we've received over the course of the webinar. And let's just have a quick look. Okay. So we've got a question here. How is the product licensed? Well, if we take the cloud option as a scenario, I think probably about 99% of our implementations are cloud-based. So it's licensed in terms of professional users. So that's users that work for your organization. Now, any external users that are sending back to you or just receiving or both are completely free and unlimited. So it's licensed on professional users, and there's also a little bit of throttling on the download allowance per month and the overall storage as well. But what we'll do is we'll come back to you with an email and speak to you about a bespoke quotation for you.
Brilliant. We do have a question, another one. Can the system allow two-way file sharing to be set up? So yes, in terms of transfer, it's two-way. I know we only showed you sending to a recipient, but also you can get recipients to send back in with the guest sender privilege. And from a file share perspective, again, with the login and the right permission, they're able to upload files directly to that central file share repository. So again, making it two-way as well.
Okay, we'll have a question here. You talked about cloud. Do you offer an on-premise alternative? Yes, we do. So we have both options. As I mentioned, I say most of our implementations are the UK cloud instance. However, we do have a few customers using the on-premise option. So again, we'll drop you a quick line after the webinar about that.
Another one here. Are there any issues with uploading executables? In theory, no. The solution is open-ended unless an administrator imposes restrictions. So essentially through the policies you can apply a restriction on the file types that you're not allowed to upload. So if there weren't any, then yes, you could upload executables in any file format.
Okay. Okay. Can you remind me how the roles and permissions work for file shares?
Yeah. So we have a default owner, which is someone that initially created that share. And the good thing about the admin side is that you can administer the creation of those shares from there as well. So you could have set people just creating them centrally and inviting users, internal or external from the admin side. But you could invite a user as an owner as well, so maybe a departmental manager, and they then can not only administer the share, but invite third parties, even colleagues, to view that information. So we have the editor role, the publisher role, and the read-only role. So they just restrict certain features once they log in. So whether or not they're allowed to upload information or just view it and download it. In all cases, everyone can make comments just to make it more collaborative. And as I showed in the demo as well, they could be notified as well when changes are made.
Okay, got one more that's just come in.
Can you set up admin users for different folders? Example, a folder per department. Yes, so in terms of file shares, I guess the way it's licensed is you would have a pool of file shares, and the way you would control those is by providing access to maybe different departmental managers or different users. But if someone has access to a share, maybe I've got access to one and Chris has access to one, then you wouldn't be able to see each other's share unless you're invited to view it. From an admin perspective, they have full visibility of those shares on the system, but the users, I guess, are none the wiser that the other shares exist unless they have administration rights.
Okay, I think we've come to the end of the questions. Unless there's any more coming in, but I think if not, we'll conclude the webinar there. So thanks everyone for your time. It is appreciated. As I said, if you do want to send us an email or give us a call or connect with us on LinkedIn or social media, please feel free to, even if it's just to pick our brains on securing your files in transit. And thanks again for your time.
Thanks very much.